Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Holy Plot. This is Matt Murdock, Sue Storm, and one of the Avengers in disguise. It could frankly be any of them. And today, we're going to be talking about...
Hey, Matt, you're pointing the wrong way, dude. You're looking the wrong way.
Oh, I am? I got it. Yeah, I got it. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about something very near and dear to our hearts. There we go. It's the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. It should be stated that we are not full-blown haters of the MCU, as you maybe can even see.
We used to like it at a time.
I mean,
actually
honestly,
loved
I
it.
think part of the reason we're making this video is because we think it has a lot of potential.
Yeah, I used to love the MCU.
Marvel as a cinematic IP.
And that's really the crux of what we want to get to today. Bottom line, you read the title. We here at Holy Plot believe that it is about time for a Marvel reboot. So in this video, we want to sort of give our opinion on how that happens, on what we would like to see from a reboot, why we think it's necessary. To get us started, I think we should probably start with where we are now. Why do we think the MCU needs a reboot?
I think a lot of the problems that are going on with the MCU right now come down to one huge thing, which is character. I think that when you go back and if you even try to watch the original first three phases of the MCU, performances from people like Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, they really anchor everything that's going on. And you especially can feel now that how much that is responsible for why you cared. I think
I think like starting your universe with a character just gives it like a whole new feel than like introducing them.
The fact that we're 3 phases in technically to this new saga feels weird because it's only been what, like 3 years, 2 years. It's not even been enough really for a whole phase. We don't know these characters. A lot of them haven't met. There's not even like an Avengers roster right now, and we're heading into a 2-parter. So it's really weird. I think a lot of focus on character has gone, and I think that that's kind of really in 2 main areas, which is the characters that we do have been kind of neglected on actually growing in meaningful ways. And there's also just a whole slew of great existing Marvel characters that haven't even entered the fray yet.
That's really what I wanted to get to is, if you look at Marvel Comics, maybe this is probably an overestimation, but like a third of the Marvel content is X-Men related, in my estimation. Again, maybe that's too much, but my point is a shit ton of it is. And it could be argued the same for like Marvel, what's it called? Is it Marvel Knights, which is like their supernatural, like Ghost Rider-y stuff?
It's like the Midnight Suns or the Marvel Knights.
Yeah, and then you have Fantastic Four, Doctor Doom, like these great foundational characters in the comics that really sort of built Marvel into what it is. And you're forcing these A-tier, S-tier characters into a universe that is already filled to the brim with characters that they really, it seems like now they don't really know what to do with. I think the great example of that would be someone like Kang, who they built up in Loki as like the new Thanos type threat. And then we see in Ant-Man 3, yeah, it was 3. We see him in Ant-Man 3, and you think it's going to be his big introduction. He gets murked by ants, but he's still the bad guy in Loki Season 2, and it's just all very confusing and multiverse-heavy. We haven't even touched Doctor Doom yet, who's arguably the greatest Marvel villain. Him and Magneto, who are easily the 2 best. Not counting Green Goblin, but it's okay. We got Green Goblin. It's okay. But you know what I mean? I mean, if we're already struggling to juggle fucking Moon Knight, how can we expect them to put all the X-Men on their plate on top of all this and launch phases into the future when people are already so tired of this universe?
The whole thing that we're kind of getting to is Marvel is built around these characters, and the universe is not. These X-Men characters that they're going to introduce, the Fantastic Four, they're going to feel like they're showing up late to a party that they weren't invited to.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have these characters that that Marvel is built on, then they should really be building their cinematic universe. And I'm glad that they got to do the Avengers and Guardians and give them their due. But I really would love to see a Marvel universe built up the way their comics were. And just like comics, I think they should do a bit of a continuity reset, where we go back to a universe from scratch, and instead of starting with a humble beginning like Iron Man, you're going to start with the Fantastic Four, or you're going to start by starting in Marvel Cinematic Universe with Spider-Man, or you're going to start a Marvel Cinematic Universe with the X-Men and everything surrounding that. And you can have Doctor Doom be a presence from beginning to end, instead of like 150 hours into a bunch of stories that you aren't revolved around it.
You can have like Wolverine in a World War II movie with Captain America.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
I think one of the issues, though, is that these characters that we want to see come in, which, by the way, are characters that used to be that all Marvel was before the MCU made you care about the Avengers for like a wider audience. These characters right now are competing with these legacy characters that they're trying to build up. And that juggling act is not working right now. I think that as much as I like want to see maybe some of these legacy characters get their time, the idea of a full reboot gets us back to the relationships that Marvel, like the character relationships that Marvel has ran on for decades at this point. There are plenty of interactions that we are just flat out not going to be able to see because of what we're talking about, that these characters are coming into like a used napkin of a universe. And I think a full reset can just absolutely reset the board for new versions of old characters we've been waiting to see, and everybody gets an equal chance with a fresh start to tell something new.
Well, let's talk about the elephant in the room. DC had the DCEU, which by all accounts was a bit of a flop. Let's be realistic. I like a lot of the movies in the DCEU, but objectively speaking, the MCU dunked on it crazily.
Oh, it was a massive blunder.
So here's the thing. The DCU now has James Gunn, who has proven success with taking basically any character and making them a fan favorite. We saw Guardians 3, easily the best thing to come out of Marvel recently, in this podcast's humble opinion.
Yeah,
post Endgame for sure.
And he's helming DC's new universe, which is starting totally fresh, doing pretty much what we're saying Marvel should do, starting with the building block foundational characters, focusing on relationships, making it fun and comic booky. Not to say that like Dark Knight style grittiness is ruining comic movies. It's not our argument at all, but there is I feel like there's an audience that the DCU is going to be able to tap into that the MCU is losing, because in order to, like, let's talk about the Marvels, which came out this past weekend. In order to watch the Marvels,
go watch a video on it.
Yeah, go watch your video on it.
Very in-depth.
If you came here from that video, thank you very much. Like and subscribe. But I mean, if Marvel continues down in its current course, can another The Marvels or the Echo show compete with Superman Legacy? I doubt it. So here's what I think they should do. Frankly, I think the MCU probably should have ended after Endgame. We got some really cool stuff after it. I'm glad we have the movies we do that were good. But by and large, what I would do, reset, which is something comics do all the time. Specifically, DC Comics are more like to do this with stuff like Crisis on Infinite Earths, etc. But it's not out of the realm of possibility for a comic universe, movie or otherwise, to reset.
To not be too opinionated, but there's a reason why DC Comics are more fresh nowadays. It's because they're willing to go back to the drawing board and start it in an exciting way each time. I think the whole DCU argument, which is something I think you were kind of alluding to, is there's going to be something very satisfying with a new universe where everything's on the table. And a new universe built around a new Superman. It would have been really odd if we felt like these big DC characters were showing up to the corpse of the Snyderverse. And I don't think people are willing to admit that the MCU is heading in a similar direction. And it's starting to feel washed up. And I think people are going to be willing to give the DCU a second chance because it's a fresh start and it's a good opportunity to hop in. And I think if you reset Marvel like that, people are going to be invested in these characters. They're going to be excited to see old characters come back. People that were alienated by certain decisions in the MCU are going to be excited for a character like Hulk to finally get his due.
Or Spider-Man. frankly.
Marvel just got the
Or
rights
more
back to the
Spider-Man.
theatrical Hulk.
The Fantastic
You can do
Four.
Spider-Man. You can do Thor and do stuff that they didn't get to, like Beta Ray Bill. At the same time, you're going to introduce the X-Men at the beginning, introduce the Fantastic Four at the beginning, and introduce all of that stuff. And it's going to feel like the universe is built around that instead of built around like a memory.
We haven't really seen a lot of street level heroes, like Daredevil, for instance. We've seen him in the Netflix show, but that's so disconnected from the MCU that we haven't seen him like really interact with people. Same thing like Luke Cage, Jessica Jones. I mean, you can just rattle off some of the Netflix guys. Iron Fist, they could do justice. Spider-Man, they could take him to his street level roots and get rid of all of the Iron Boy Jr. stuff that's taken them 3 movies to shake off. They could do stuff like have their own Doc Ock and Green Goblin instead of having to bring in legacy characters. As much as I loved watching Willem Dafoe run around again, I think the thing that they do is they take a 3-pronged approach. They don't touch the Avengers just yet. Maybe they get to it, because at a certain point, if they do a whole new thing where they're starting off with X-Men, Fantastic Four, street level stuff, keep it in New York, keep it comic booky, keep it fresh, then they can, in a really satisfying way, build up to the Avengers again. And we can see these big exciting crossovers between the Avengers and the Fantastic Four and the X-Men in a way that's
Marvel versus
fresh.
X-Men.
Yeah, do this.
We can see characters like Iron Man and Captain America, Steve Rogers Captain America anyway, that fans haven't seen for a while on screen. And I know people are missing Tony.
Do the stuff that you didn't get to do the first time. Hawkeye is supposed to be an asshole who doesn't get along with any of the other rest of the team. You can do the different kind of spin on it where Tony actually does have a secret identity. There's tons of just the Hulk in general just actually being done right. There's a lot of stuff that you can do this time. Taking the actual kind of gritty Norse stuff for Thor serious, because they just scuffed taking it serious the first time around. Yeah. There's a lot of cool stuff that you can do. And as much as DC characters, as we'll probably talk about on this channel, open themselves up maybe to reinterpretation more, Marvel characters, the familiar ones that we know already, can still be reinterpreted. And I think that more and more, the further we get here in the MCU, when you talk about comic trends, the deeper we start to get into these rumors of characters resurrecting, the more people are going to want a reboot to just happen. Because nobody wants to see them de-age Chris Evans for a movie or resurrect Scarlett Johansson for a movie. I think we're going to get to a point where people would just rather let it rest, take some time off, I don't know, maybe 5 years, and then just
or
reset.
less. I mean, people are hungry to see new, like Marvel. Say what you will, it's definitely in decline, but people are still ravenously Marvel fans. The MCU has not deleted the love for Marvel characters. Look at just recently Spider-Man 2 coming out to huge fanfare. Like, people still love these characters, even
across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, exactly. Even cynical people like us who sit here and complain on YouTube about it. You know, I still love these characters. I want to see all these characters done justice in a way that's fresh. I've been watching the MCU since its inception. It's been a fun ride, but eventually, if you just keep going and going and going, we've seen it with every single movie franchise, basically ever. I'm sure there's an example that someone's going to comment that didn't get stupid or tired or played out. But you look at the grand majority of the time, look like Star Wars, perfect example. How many people would have just preferred to have Star Wars let it rest, do something new? And I think Marvel lends itself even better to that because of the precedent set in the comics industry. Start it again with new characters. Maybe move away from the more grounded, real-world tech approach. Get a little goofy with it. And then you can do, I mean, even a character like T'Challa, who we didn't really get to see the fullness of T'Challa's character because of tragic events outside of the studio's control. Like, you can give T'Challa fans more stories with that character, which meant so much to people when it came out. And the same thing with any number of characters who have kind of had their day in the MCU. But I think for our point, most importantly, is looking at those characters that haven't yet. I know I would much prefer seeing the Fantastic Four, for example, as the founding family of Marvel like they were in the comics.
I'd rather enter a universe where there's actually mutants integrated into the history than explain that the mutants came from an Infinity Stone or whatever
Right.
they might eventually do.
Yeah, and I think it would be satisfying to have, you're not going to be able to replicate that feeling of Thanos being there from day one.
Mm-hmm.
No.
But if you have a new universe, you can. And you can do that with Doctor Doom,
Magneto, yeah.
Please, I'm begging you. You can do it with Kang, because he's connected to the Fantastic Four.
Do another go at Ultron. Like, there's so
Dude,
much stuff
please.
that can...
Yeah, Ultron's a character that could be done justice in this new universe.
Can you imagine if we get like an entire phase dedicated to Ultron?
It'd be
oh my
sick.
god, it'd be amazing. There's just so much potential.
And they could do stuff like the comics where they could give Hank Pym more of an extended role because he kind of got cannibalized by Tony Stark. I think it's pretty safe to say that Holy Plot is maybe a more DC leaning channel, but please do not get it wrong. We love Marvel Comics. We love these characters. We want to see them succeed just as much as anybody. And at the end of the day, we're comic book fans. We like good comic book content. That's basically all I got. I think it's time, unless you guys have anything else.
That's it for me.
Nope, just curious if like this is what the people want. Like, let us know.
Yeah, be sure to comment. They read every comment. I can't because I'm blind. But if you like what we do, make sure you show it by liking the video, by subscribing, by not revealing my other co-host's secret identity down there. It really could be anyone. I don't know where James went, by the way.
Guys, that's Bruce Banner the whole time.
Wow.
That's crazy. Thank you for watching. Get out of here. Get out of here. I'm done with you. Shoo.